Hi, all. Welcome to Pump Up the Jam, where we give you the latest and greatest on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and everything American Riviera Orchard. Although today it's going to be all about Colombia. Cristo, um, quite a bit, quite a bit of content. We have got how Colombia spent almost 2 million US dollars for security.
Yes.
Did you know that Meghan and Harry only allowed one reporter to go with them on this trip, and that one reporter scrubbed Meghan Markle's soap story from the recap she sent everybody? So we'll go into that. It just
Outfits. We got to talk about outfits.
we'll talk about outfits. We'll talk about the BBC's response to Harry and Meghan, which was, because the BBC was like, we're not going to deal with these two anymore. And why did Harry and Meghan only provide video that didn't include sound? So plenty of Harry and Meghan's content to recap around that Colombia tour.
And the overwhelming question, which we may as well answer the question, what is the meaning of life, Kinsey? Because that might be easier. Why? Why? Why did they go? Why are they there? What were they actually doing there? And I don't know whether we will be able to answer that question. I'm not sure whether God himself knows the answer to that question. Do you know the answer to that question?
Well, I think it was a performative trip. So Meghan Markle was in her element as a Suits actress.
As a Suits actress, well, yes. And has she ever achieved such great heights as being her Suits actress? But yes, they took this quasi royal tour to Colombia on the invitation of the vice president of Colombia. They went there on this, what is being called this quasi royal tour. They claimed it was to, well, shine a light on Colombian culture and to continue their work about cyberbullying and making sure that younger people are not in any way corrupted by the dark side of the internet. Now, Kinsey, I have to ask you this question because I know you've been reporting on this a lot. What is the connection between Colombia and young people going on the internet? Because Colombia has a lot of problems, has a lot of social problems, has a lot of problems around poverty. But what seems so bizarre is that Colombia doesn't seem to have anything to do with this cause that Harry and Meghan have taken up, does it?
I don't know what it's like in Colombia, but I do feel like having access to a smartphone, having access to a laptop, and having access to social media freely feels like a luxury. We know that there is a severe poverty problem over there. Uh, Locals are saying, great cause, but really not our priority. And I have to take what they say in it as the gospel, because I don't know otherwise. So great cause, but I don't really know how it relates to Colombia. And
It
good
it
luck,
it,
guys.
it
I mean,
doesn't.
obviously,
I mean, this
today
is
it was just a PR execution for not only this vice president who's, getting accused of squandering public money on her vanity. Um, One person said taxes were spent on rich white people for photo opportunities in social media. I think it was a way to shine a light on this vice president who probably has bigger ambitions.
I mean, you're quite right. You're talking about the councillor Andre Escobar. This is the councillor for the city of Cali, where Harry and Meghan ended their visit. The councillor said that basically we continue with an ancient practice, handing over our resources in exchange for smoke and mirrors. Billions could have been used to expand coverage of children's soup kitchens, pay salaries for community mothers, seed capital for Afro communities, or adapt sports venues that are practically in ruins. He also accused the Vice President, Mrs. Marquez, of wasting public money on her vanity and spending taxes, to allude to your comment, Kinsey, on rich white people for photo opportunities and social media. I mean, so going back to your point, I think you're absolutely right. If you are a poverty-stricken Colombian, if you're worrying about where the next meal is, if you're worrying about the socio-economic problems in Colombia, do you think online issues, online hatred is in any way on your radar whatsoever. Of course not. You're worrying about where your next meal is going to be coming from. You're worrying about the crime that might be taking place in the country. You're certainly not worrying about what people might be saying on Instagram or the dark corners of social
But is
media.
but did Harry and Meghan have to go totally completely opposite? Because probably as a parent in Colombia, your real concern is ensuring that your child doesn't turn to drugs, whether it be selling drugs or using drugs or joining one of these gangs. I mean, maybe that is your real concern. So Harry and Meghan have to go completely opposite of that, or it brings up Prince Harry's past drug use, not just drug use, but drug endorsements. So I mean, I'm serious. I mean, maybe they had to go so off the charts to avoid that being brought up again, to avoid that. I mean, because this was all wildly choreographed. This was all bizarrely scripted. The BBC, in one of their articles, said this may be in part because much of this tour, including the events, were very private and controlled. These strict controls are often very typical of all royal tours. The couple and government only allowed their own videographers and photographers into most of the events, which they say was to make sure the events were represented accurately. Footage
Mm.
was released daily with no sound. They took with them only one pool reporter from Harper's Bazaar who released daily updates to the media about what they were doing. And the BBC basically said, we're not comfortable
Yeah,
with this. They chose not to rely on this material alone. They said, as we could not be present to verify what was being said and described, but we were able to attend the summit and watch some of the events from the sidelines. So not even BBC given access
yeah, and and
to
and
this.
and you're quite right. The BBC, even if they don't have access themselves, they insist on there being two reliable sources if they're going to have video, if they're going to have anything else. But because there was only this one source, Harper's Bazaar, you're quite right. In a lot of their reporting, they wrote in their articles, BBC couldn't verify this, so have chosen not to report on this. You know, all of this, Kinsey, comes down to the issue with their role and what it is they actually are and what it is they want to achieve. They were invited by the vice president. Now, if they were royal, then it would be a case of diplomacy. It would be a task, it would be a job, it would be an endeavour of diplomacy. And you wouldn't go, if you were a royal, to a country and start saying, well, look at these issues over here, look at this poverty, because it would be soft diplomacy. That's what the Queen was brilliant at, that's what the royals are brilliant at. However, that's not what Harry and Meghan are. Harry and Meghan are these supposed to be these private philanthropic citizens that are going to shine a light on injustice around the world. Well, if that's what you're going to be, then you need to actually do that. You can't go along and have a jolly for pure PR reasons, because it just looks like self-indulgent nonsense, because you do not have a formal diplomatic role. So that, to me, is why this makes absolutely no sense. If you're royal, it makes sense. If you're not, I don't know why you're there.
Well, and if they're trying to if they're trying to make the appearance that they are still in the half in, half out space, which I think that is a little bit of it, that they know that the royal family, Prince or King Charles, Prince William, they're not taking their calls. And Harry and Meghan's value is their association with the royal family. I know some will disagree with me and feel like this is Harry and Meghan purposely trying to tear down the royal family through this activity. I've seen other commentators say that this is betrayal. I mean, a little bit of me agrees with that too, but I ultimately think that they are so self-consumed and so worried about their position in life and their social status that they still have to appear a little bit royal. But to do that, um, there has to be more depth than soundless videos of Harry and Meghan twerking wherever, or, on a panel discussing something. None of the Harper's Bazaar commentary released what Prince Harry said that first night about misinformation online. The Harper's Bazaar, this is the Daily Beast reporting that Meghan told her familiar foundation story about writing a letter complaining about a sexist soap commercial during the tour of Colombia, and much mocked. They agree this much mocked anecdote was not included in bulletins sent to global media by a journalist accompanying the tour, and it was Harry and Meghan's team that actually did the distribution. So they are denying it, but did Harry and Meghan's team remove the soap story, which Tom Bauer says cannot be verified? Thomas Markle says is not all that Meghan Markle claimed it was. It was a group project. Meghan did not take it upon herself to write this soap story. The way that they're trying to control the narrative so much invalidates the entire trip. To limit access so much, it invalidates the entire trip. All it is pretty pictures and poverty porn of them clutching children.
You're right, and royal trips don't do that. Royal trips do give access. Royal trips do update the media, and royal trips, as I said, are about this soft diplomacy. So, okay, you do see the royals doing the same sorts of things, dancing, stupidly, or going around and shaking all those hands. Why? Well, because, of course, sometimes it's the Commonwealth, because, though, it keeps relations between the United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries to other countries in the world. What does that do? It opens up doors to those countries so that once the royals have gone there, once the royals have been involved, same as when diplomats come to the United Kingdom and they get given, or presidents get given a state dinner, what that does is it opens the door then to some of that more difficult politics, some of those conversations perhaps about human rights, poverty, those sorts of things. That is the absolute key to the soft diplomacy of a royal family. This isn't that. This is just pure self-indulgence with no end goal. What if the royal family wanted to visit Colombia? What if there is actually something between the United Kingdom and Colombia that needs to be addressed? They have basically usurped that happening, and if anything, they may well have damaged relations between Colombia and some of the Commonwealth countries. And so, although it might have looked like they were just doing what royal people do on tours, when the royals do it, there is an end result of that. There is a wider issue. Those countries are chosen for a reason.
That's Harry and Meghan's biggest problem. They have no end game. They throw everything at the wall, and all they're doing is chasing the next paycheck, chasing the next dollar, chasing the next positive press hit. There's no ultimate objective in anything they do. How Meghan Markle going to Colombia is going to sell a jar of jam is beyond me. Like, I just don't understand how Meghan going to Colombia and wearing $60,000 worth of outfits is going to encourage me to buy a water bottle from her.
I'll tell you how, and it's one word: relevance. That's what all of this is about. It's their desperate life raft of relevance for them to go to countries to look like they're royal in order to get limited reporting that they control the narrative on, and to desperately look relevant to the rest of the world, because they really have no role other than the role that they have invented for themselves. And I agree with those commentators. It does undermine, it does chip away at the actual royal family, whose job it is to do this stuff. I don't know what their job is.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think Harry and Meghan are sitting around saying, let's do this to piss off King Charles. I think they're sitting around going, okay, we got Nigeria invited us. Oh my God, Colombia invited us. Let's go. Because no one else wants them around. Oprah's not inviting them around her dinner table anymore. Tyler Perry's lost their number. Like, nobody else wants them around. So they're jumping on a plane and going to Colombia because Colombia is going to treat them the way they think they should be treated, instead of the lepers that they've become in the UK and the United States.
I absolutely agree. I think that they are so far gone with their self-indulgence. You're absolutely right. I do not think as well that they're calculatedly sitting there going, right, how can we annoy the royal family? I think that you're absolutely right. It's this tunnel vision. It's all about us. It's all about our relevance. It's all about how we can promote ourselves over and above anything else. And hey, if it costs a poverty-stricken nation millions and millions of dollars on security and laying on a show for us for no real benefit, well then, what the hey? At least we look more relevant. It's kind of outrageous. It's sort of outrageous, to be
It's so
honest.
the 3,000 police officers, drones, black, what was it? Black Hawk helicopters. I mean, that they were in their element. That's exactly the type of security Prince Harry wants when he lands at Heathrow. That is exactly what Prince Harry wants. He thinks he is on, and Meghan, they think that they are on some other level. And I wish I had whatever the mushrooms they are on, because I would love to wake up with that much self-confidence every day. But
No,
it's
Kinsey, we
there
got
was
you,
and
Kinsey.
just
We got you an Uber from Heathrow, all right? You did get an Uber from us, okay? So don't complain.
I don't think I did. I
Oh.
actually don't think I did. Wait, Tom one time got me one, but I'm pretty sure he paid for it. But just in the idea of relevance, I am not 100% sure that I believe this headline. But the expert that responded, I mean, I think his response is important. There were rumors that Meghan, when it comes to relevance, there were rumors that Meghan wanted to appear at the DNC convention that's happening now. And one expert said from Washington, D.C., that she was so irrelevant and that her brand had become so poisonous that they wouldn't want her there. Now, I think that that's an interesting take from him, but I don't know if she wanted to be at the DNC, that the DNC would actually reject her. We see Harry and Meghan appear a lot via video. Some said she wasn't capable because she was coming back to Colombia um, during the DNC. But I feel like if she wanted to be there, they would find a way to make sure she was there. But the idea that someone in Washington, D.C. feels like her brand is too toxic, I think that's really interesting, because that's where the movers and shakers are. And that's where Harry and Meghan are so desperate to be taken seriously.
Absolutely. But then, of course, if Kamala goes on to win the presidency and win against Donald Trump, they're also probably thinking long term. Do we want then the association with Harry and Meghan? Because, of course, it will be one of the first things that will happen if there is a new US president, will be a state visit to the United Kingdom. That will involve Prince William. That will involve.
Well, but Kamala has taken Meghan's side multiple times. Like, Kamala has already taken Meghan's side. She's tweeted support for Meghan after Meghan did that Tom Bradby interview where she said, "Thank you for asking how I am." Kamala tweeted about how brave the conversation was. So Kamala has already drawn a line in the sand.
I'm telling you now, she will ditch Meghan and Harry like a hot potato. I bet that there has been, I haven't actually looked recently, but I bet that there has been very little in the form of utterances from Kamala in recent times towards Harry and Meghan, because how can she straddle both? And they know that if she's going to be a world leader and if she wins the election, how can she possibly be tweeting or continuing support for Harry and Meghan? So she will have to draw a line under that support, because of course you're going to go for the jackpot. You're going to want to be in the company of King Charles and in the company of the future king, Prince William. So I wonder if that would be a reason why it would be too toxic to have Meghan and Harry at that kind of convention. Can I pull you up on something? Apparently, we've got breaking news. Meghan's clothes and jewellery were actually £90,000. So what's that in dollars? Probably $120,000, somewhere in excess of that.
I just know that I love this quote from News Nation, the publicist that said, like, they need to be careful because when clutching under the underprivileged in their $90,000 worth of clothes and jewelry, it looks like poverty porn. I love that term.
It does.
I mean, it looks absolutely insane.
Why? Why are they there? Please, someone look. Put it in the comments. If anyone knows why they are there, please, someone explain.
We know why they're there, because they're bored and irrelevant, and they need something to do. And this was an opportunity to make them look like they were doing something. Because how many times do we sit around going, "What do they do?" It makes them look like they're doing something, and it makes them look more important than they truly are.
Oh, that is so tragic. That's just so tragic. Just get on with your life. Just enjoy yourselves. Yeah. Just enjoy yourselves. I mean, this is the issue, and I think someone said this week. A commentator said that Harry is he's still living in the past. He's still living this life. And by the way, he looked miserable as sin while he was there as well. I mean, he looked like he was at one point. I thought he was in a hostage video himself, being sort of dragged around by Meghan.
I don't know. He was like dancing. I don't know. I think that he did recognize parts of his past life, and it's really one of the only things, like riding a bike, that he's just instantly good at. But it was so controlled. They didn't meet with normal people. There were no walkabouts. They met with who they were expected to meet with. And did you know that it was so controlled that they were told they were the media was told they were not allowed to address any of the security issues while they were there, because it could put them in jeopardy, which was just them not wanting to deal with pushback on the cost of security while Harry and Meghan were still in the country. And when one reporter went in to talk to one of the teachers that met them at one of the schools that they spoke at, that reporter was removed from the group chat, the WhatsApp group that everybody was using to communicate about upcoming events, because nobody was given like an itinerary that you're normally, and the royal family gives it to you last
Yeah.
minute too, but they were giving it like up to the minute to avoid people having access to Harry and Meghan
It was
in
to
this WhatsApp
scrutiny.
chat.
It was to avoid
And
scrutiny.
then they were bumped because they were trying to do their job and actually ask questions beyond what was the access that they were given.
It's scrutiny. It's just all about the lack of scrutiny, and of course this absolute hypocrisy about this security, because of course Colombia is not a safe nation, and they want to also put out this idea that if they were to land at Heathrow, if they were to come to the United Kingdom, well, firstly, I think that there has been offers for Harry to stay closer into the royal fold where there would be that security provided, but as if the British security services would simply say, oh, all right, well, you get yourself an Uber, and we'll see you at Frogmore or wherever it is you're staying, or whatever hotel you're staying in. I mean, that's just not true. They would get security here. They would be looked after here. It is nonsense to suggest that they wouldn't be. But that is, of course, the narrative that they want to put out. And that is why they are saying, oh, it's fine we went to Colombia because of all this security. We wouldn't get any of that in the UK. That's nonsense.
Yeah, if who's a good example? So if former President Bush, George W. Bush, if he decided he wanted to go to London for anything, he would have to contact the same team 28 days in advance, explain his itinerary, and they would determine whether or not they would send a certain type of security. How they would determine what their strategy would be around protecting him based on that itinerary and that 28 days notice. So that is the exact same process Prince Harry has to go through. Prince Harry doesn't want, he's a control freak. Him and Meghan Markle are control freaks. They don't want to give somebody their itinerary 28 days in advance. They don't want people to know what they're doing while they're there. They're very secretive, and they don't want to go through that process. It is just stubbornness. But he does brand it as an abandonment, which is that's your misinformation, Harry. You want to talk about misinformation? It's right there. It's not an abandonment. They just have to go through the proper protocols. But Prince Harry and Meghan are entitled, and they think they're above it all. It would be the same with any other world leader that wanted to come visit. They need your itinerary 28 days in advance. Then they put together a strategy on how to best protect you. That's all they're asking. With Prince Harry, like you said, almost a 99.9% guarantee that he is going to get the exact security he wants every time he touches down over there, because he is the king's son and because there have been legitimate threats against him and his wife. So he is going to get that security. But because he's stomping his feet and pitching a fit, I think that the king is less likely to stand up for him or try to make any moves in his favor for his cause, because then it looks like the privilege that Prince Harry just thinks he's entitled to.
They are outrageous. They're outrageous on this visit. They're outrageous when it comes to their hypocrisy over security. They are outrageous with their double standards. They are outrageous with their lack of scrutiny. They are outrageous in their desperate, desperate attempt for relevance. I'm, you know what? It's amazing, and I think you probably feel the same way. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't think that they could leave me more surprised, but this week they have. They actually have. Every time I think they can't shock me more, they do. They really do. Because and the worst thing, and I think you've made this point, is that they have no idea. I genuinely don't think they have a clue. I really don't think that they, like you said, I don't think they strategize this stuff. I genuinely don't think they've got a clue.
Yeah, they completely lack self-awareness, and the ultimate objective is a quick hit, positive PR. That's why they chose a fashion magazine to accompany them, who literally just broke down every day what Meghan was wearing versus anything of value that they were saying. And just a quick reminder, Cristo, in 2020, remember, they said that they were only going to work with grassroots journalists, up and coming journalists. Harper's Bazaar, 157 years old, America's first fashion magazine.
Yeah, that
doesn't sound to me like an up and coming grassroots
Harper's,
journalist.
isn't that a student newspaper? Harper's what? Harper's Bazaar Student. I mean, what do you think is going to be in that piece then? It's just going to be a puff piece, isn't it? Of glossy photos and a puff piece about how amazing they are.
It's an online reporter. I mean, that was the point that the Daily Beast kind of savagely made. They were like, this girl doesn't even have a journalistic background. She's basically a fashion blogger. I mean, I'm not insulting her because I don't know her background, but that was what the Daily Beast said. You've got a girl that really doesn't have a journalistic background, that's basically the fashion blogger for Harper's Bazaar, and you want to be taken seriously in Colombia about digital, responsibility, online safety for children in the digital space. I mean, and even though they focused on different things. We had Invictus, we had mental health, we had children's responsibility online for children, women using their voice. Even that, I would argue with, is too many different categories. They need a fixed position. They need a fixed goal, and everything they do. Maybe there could have been a stop by the Invictus team because so Harry could have something, but it's like they're still all over the place. So at the end of the day, you're still talking about Meghan, what Meghan wore versus what purpose they had there.
I mean, women using their voice. What about the women who had to sign non-disclosure agreements that worked for them, that were accusing them of bullying and accusing Meghan of being a complete nightmare? Where were their voices?
3-year-old Lily is using her voice for them. 3-year-old Lily, who found her voice, is using her voice for them.
For those women. You're right, because that's what Meghan said, that Lilibet has found her voice and she's encouraging female empowerment. Encouraging female empowerment. You literally left your staff beside themselves and quivering wrecks because you were so awful to them, allegedly. I mean, that report was never released, but I mean, female empowerment, don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh. I mean, I just think it's a complete lack of self-awareness. You're right. They don't have any idea. They don't join the dots. They don't think any of us could look at this and say, what the hell are you talking about? Female empowerment. How much empowerment was there for poor Princess Catherine when people on your side were saying the most awful things, including the author of a book that you had previously contributed to, alleging that she's a terrible racist? Oh, what great female empowerment that is. It's outrageous. They have shocked me more than usual this week, and that's saying something.
Well, what she wants us to talk about is the fact that she spoke Spanish. So let's acknowledge that. Meghan spoke a little Spanish. God, she's impressive. It's just groundbreaking stuff.
What did she say in Spanish? Bring me my Cartier.
What she said in Spanish, I wrote Procter and Gamble, and
I wrote to Procter and Gamble. Oh my God, how many times are they going to dredge out that story? Honestly,
I mean, can you imagine how many times has Prince Harry had to sit through that? Because she doesn't just save that for when she's on a stage with a microphone in her hand. Imagine how many dinner parties they've been at. Imagine how many cocktail parties, social situations where he's had to sit back and listen to that story. And I did forget. Somebody reminded me of this week. I forgot that this was a class project. And maybe Meghan mentions that in the Netflix docuseries, but the way she tells the story today is that she took this initiative by herself to write this soap company and tell them she didn't like this commercial, which is like, okay, but I really truly don't care what you did when you were 11 years old. Like, to say that the soap commercial was sexist because we shouldn't assume that women are spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and then for Meghan to be like 40 years old now marketing her cooking show, which takes place in a kitchen, blows my mind. But I didn't realize that this was just a school project. So this wasn't a young 11-year-old girl taking initiative on her own to write Procter and Gamble and to make change. This was a teacher instructing her to send a sassy letter, so she did it. And then she allegedly got the response that she wanted. And now she lives and dies by this story. And it's like, Meghan, that's not why you were invited here. You were not invited here to sit on this stage because at 11, you were at Procter and Gamble. You married a guy with some clout. And that is why you are sitting on a stage in Colombia.
Yeah, that's your female empowerment, love. Can you imagine the poor maids at home in the Montecito mansion as well if they don't use washing powder that's Procter and Gamble? Imagine if they come back with a different brand. They're probably fired immediately. Poor things. Listen, that's it. I don't think I've got the energy for any more. Kids, I think I need a vodka and tonic and a sit down. I really do. Honestly, they've exhausted me this week. But you never do, my dear.
No, I don't have anything else to say either. I think that they are just ridiculous.
Yeah, they've done it. They've destroyed us this week. We've nothing left to add. But of course, you may well do. And if you do, then please comment. And as always,
oh wait,
subscribe.
I forgot there is some breaking news. The vice president of Colombia announced that Baby Reindeer is visiting Colombia next week because she loved Baby Reindeer too. So I'm just kidding. I stole that joke from The Sun.
Is there anything else she like? Anyone else? Does she like us? Do you think we'll get a visit to Colombia? Maybe she'll invite us.
There's no way, because you and I have standards and it wouldn't make sense for our brands. So we'd tell them, we would politely decline.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure that there's a cause that has nothing to do with Colombia we could go there and talk about, but you're quite right. Okay, so do comment below, do subscribe as always, and we're going to be back next week for another, aren't we, Kinsey?
Pump up the jam.
See you later.